Good afternoon. So this week's Torah portion, the beginning of the portion, we read the special portion of Abraham making the first acquisition in the Holy Land of Israel, buying the cave of Machpelah where Adam and Eve were buried, and making it a place that is an inheritance for the Jewish people, where Adam and Eve are buried, and Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, and Jacob and Leah. And it's interesting because 2 summers ago, when Grunie and I went to Israel, our kids really like this Jewish Israeli singer. His name is Ishai Riboy. Excellent guy, awesome singer, some of the most beautiful songs. We like him too. But when we were in Israel, the kids said, we really want to go to a concert of Ishai Riboy. And as the Umaners are, we woke up late to everything. The trip was planned late. And the only concert that we could find with him singing was in Beer Sheva. Now, that's quite a trek from Jerusalem just for a concert. But we really wanted the kids to have that experience, and they wanted it. So one evening, Grunie and I and the 10 kids drove to Beer Sheva. Now, the concerts in Israel, they were called at 9:30 in the evening to start time. It's outdoors in Beer Sheva, it's very hot. And besides that, we came there, we were there 9:15, little kids with us in tow because we took everyone. The concert didn't start till 10. Then it went till 11. And then afterwards, we decided to drive back, get our ways on, get into the car, start driving, and the kids fall asleep. And before we know it, after 20 minutes of driving, Grunie and I realized that we're on Kvish Shishim, Route 60, which is a shortcut to Jerusalem, but not when it's in the middle of the night, and not when you're with 10 kids, because it takes you through Ramallah, through Hebron, through Kiryat Arba, and it's a 1-lane road, very scenic, very beautiful, but quite scary. And Grunie and I, luckily the kids were sleeping, a lot of psalms and praying while we were driving. And thank God we got them safely. And it's funny because I remember on the way I was kibitzing with Grunie. I said, Grunie, should I stop in? We're at Kiryat Arba, we're at Cave of Machpelah. Let me just go make a prayer. And she says, Mendy, you're not joking. And of course there was a lot of military, but one car stops in front of you, you have nowhere to go. It can be quite dangerous. In any case, why am I saying this? Because in this week's Torah portion, we read about the acquisition of Hebron, right? But it's interesting, because think about Abraham. His wife had just passed away. His son is 40 years old and he's a bachelor. He's unmarried. And think about the 2 promises that God made to Abraham. The first promise was, this land I will give to your children, an inheritance, the whole land of Israel. The second promise is that you will have progeny, that the children will be like the stars of the sky and like the sand of the ocean, of the sea. And if you think about it, those 2 things, as Abraham is 140 years old, have not been fulfilled. His wife had just passed away. He doesn't own 1 piece of land. He doesn't have any grandchildren. What's he supposed to think? Is this going to happen? And the answer is a beautiful one that the rabbis tell us. You see, it's not enough for God to give you the blessing. He wants you to partner with him and to take that dream and make it into reality. You make the investment and then God will make it happen. That means Abraham realizes that instead of saying, oh my gosh, nothing happens, I'm going to do something about it. What does he do in this week's Torah portion? 2 things. He buys the first piece of land in Israel and he wants to pay full contract. Because he says, I want to make the dream of God a reality, the promise that God gave me a reality. And then he sends his valet, Eliezer, to go find a wife for his son Isaac. Realizing that it's not enough to say, God promised me, but what am I doing to make this dream a reality? And he does those 2 things. He buys the first piece of land in Israel, and then he goes and he finds a shidduch, Rivka, to be the wife of Isaac, who then, of course, gives birth to Jacob and Esau. And it's a powerful lesson. This is an old anecdote about the rabbi who, someone comes to him and says, Rabbi, I want a blessing to win the lottery. And the Rebbe looks at him and says, did you buy a ticket? And it's not just a little joke, but it's a powerful message. The only way for a dream to come true, the only way for God's blessing to come true for us is if we put in the effort, if we work hard on it, if we make that investment in making the vessel for the blessing of Hashem to come into it. It's not enough to sit on our laurels and twiddle our thumbs and say, God promised me. What should I do? Buy the ticket. Get into it. Get the piece of land in Israel. Make sure your child has a shidduch. Focus on bringing the next generation. I think about what's been going on since October 7th. Today, 3 Jews are championing a resolution in the U.S. Senate to literally make an arms embargo on the only Jewish state while they're fighting for their life and their survival. I think about the pain and the shock to hear about it and to think about it, that the Jewish people are doing that. But we have to know the opposite, that we have to make and fight and stand to make the dream that Hashem has promised the land of Israel and the future of the Jewish people a reality by investing in our children, investing in Israel, investing in our own Jewish education, investing in our own Jewish connection to the land of Israel. Because then, and only then, will that become a reality. They say this anecdote about this guy who fought in the Haganah undercover before the state of Israel was created, and one day he was arrested by the British and he was put into prison, and his wife writes him a letter. She says, what are we going to do? You are in prison now. There's no one to plow the field so we could get the crop for the next year so I could feed the children. What's going to happen? And the next day, the next week or whatever, she gets a letter from her husband saying, please don't, you dear, anything you do, don't plow the field because all my rifles from the Haganah are hidden under the field. Of course, all the letters are intercepted, and the next day a bunch of British police and soldiers come and they destroy the field looking for the rifles. They don't find anything. But she writes back to her husband angrily, what did you do? The British now came and destroyed everything. And the husband writes back, he says, yes, now that they have plowed the field for you, it's time for you to go plant. Hashem has given us the blessing. He's given us the dream. But it takes us and the courage that we have to make that dream a reality by buying a piece of land in Israel, by raising our children to love Judaism in Israel and to be proud Jews. And then, and only then, does that dream become a reality.